Hey friends, welcome to Better with Books.
What if I shared that a significant portion of your thoughts isn't genuinely yours, that every decision you make, every belief you hold, and every reaction you display has been meticulously crafted by unseen forces around you? Sounds conspiratorial, doesn't it? But it's the raw truth of how the world operates. From the day you entered this world, you have been conditioned. Your mind has been molded by educational institutions, media narratives, societal expectations, and hidden psychological cues designed to keep you compliant, to prompt obedience, and to give the illusion that you're making choices when, in truth, you're merely conforming. Ever pondered why the news predominantly highlights negativity? Why social media platforms seem engineered to provoke outrage? Why brands promote trends compelling you to feel inadequate without their products? It isn't coincidental. It's a structured manipulation. If you remain unaware of this, you'll traverse your life as a pawn, oblivious that you're rarely thinking independently. But today marks a turning point because in the forthcoming moments, I will guide you on reclaiming control of your mind, revealing the unseen forces orchestrating your thoughts, and teaching you how to think with clarity, speed, and intelligence surpassing that of the masses. However, a word of caution. Once you're enlightened to the truth, it becomes impossible to unsee it. Understanding the mechanics of this system means you'll never again fall prey to its deceits, and that awareness grants you a kind of power that can be considered threatening. So, if you're prepared to stop being influenced, if you're eager to evolve into someone who questions, challenges, and leads, stay tuned, as what you're about to learn could transform your entire perspective. Chapter 1. The Mind Trap You Aren't Aware of. Picture yourself stepping into a courtroom where your own mind is on trial. The prosecution, your biases, the defense, your ego, and the judge. Ideally, that would be you. But let's be honest. You might be the least qualified person to pass an unbiased judgment upon yourself. It sounds theatrical, and it is, because, daily, you unknowingly make decisions based on assumptions, emotions, and beliefs that may not belong to you. Your mind is a skilled illusionist. It persuades you that what you think is accurate solely because you think it. That's why debates on social media spiral out of control so quickly. Everyone is adamant that they are correct, failing to ever consider, what if I'm mistaken? This represents a significant flaw in weak thinking, the failure to doubt yourself. The instant you start pondering that question, you begin to think critically, and if you don't, well, you're ensnared in a loop of self-deception, continually validating the same beliefs lacking any genuine truth. Let's get personal. Have you ever experienced a gut feeling that someone was dishonest, only to later discover they were being truthful? Or assumed someone was inconsiderate because they didn't respond immediately, only to learn they were grappling with a family crisis? That's your brain filling gaps with assumptions rather than facts. The most unsettling part? You do this consistently. The positive note. You can train your mind to stop succumbing to its own deceptions. The pressing question is, do you wish to? Because once you initiate the questioning process, there's no return to blissful ignorance. And trust me, ignorance is bliss. However, clarity is power. Chapter 2. Your brain's laziness. If you've been under the impression that your brain operates as a highly advanced, consistently logical supercomputer, I have some unfortunate news. Your brain is inherently lazy. This laziness is undermining your decision-making abilities. Here's the breakdown. Your brain actively avoids deep thought because it consumes energy each time it does. This is why it seeks shortcuts, jumps to conclusions, and takes the first explanation that seems adequate rather than probing further. It explains why you might give credence to a well-articulated liar rather than a hesitant genius. This propensity also explains why you revert to your established patterns of thinking. Changing your mind is laborious. But it gets worse. Your brain isn't just lazy, it's also overconfident. It presumes it knows more than it actually does. This is why individuals passionately argue about issues they barely comprehend. Have you ever noticed how everyone suddenly claims to be a finance expert when the stock market tumbles, or a political strategist during election cycles? This phenomenon is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, when individuals with minimal knowledge overestimate their competence. And if you believe you're immune to it, you're likely experiencing that very effect. So, how do you combat a lazy, overly confident brain? The solution is simple. You challenge it to exert more effort. The most effective way to do this is to pose better questions. The next time someone presents an argument that seems convincing, inquire, what evidence supports the truth of this claim? What's the opposing viewpoint? Am I accepting this because it's comfortable or because it's accurate? Most individuals neglect this. They prefer certainty over correctness. Those who push through that initial resistance don't just think more clearly. They succeed in life. Chapter 3. The ease of manipulation. Let's cut to the chase. Many individuals are astonishingly easy to manipulate, and if you think you're exempt from this, your susceptibility only increases. Consider this. Have you ever found yourself craving a burger after watching a commercial, even when you weren't hungry? That's manipulation. Have you ever skimmed a headline and quickly formed an opinion before delving into the article? That's manipulation too. Or felt an instant connection with someone simply because they made eye contact and smiled at you? You guessed it. Manipulation. Before you panic and label yourself a mindless zombie, let's clarify. Manipulation isn't inherently negative. Sometimes it's just a form of persuasion. The real threat lies in your unawareness of such influences. Here's how it operates. Your brain is wired for cognitive ease. It gravitates toward information that is simple, familiar, and emotionally charged. This explains why news headlines often leverage fear, why politicians perpetuate slogans until they seem undeniably true, and why confidence can sometimes overshadow actual competence. The trick to resisting manipulation is to learn to recognize when someone seeks to exploit your emotions. The next time you feel a strong emotional reaction, whether anger, fear, or excitement, take a moment and ask yourself, who gains from me feeling this way? What evidence exists for this? Would I maintain this belief if the information were presented differently? Here's the catch. Most people don't question, they merely react. The fastest reactors are the ones easiest to control, while those who ponder before reacting possess a dangerous advantage, as they cannot be easily manipulated. And if you find that empowering, just wait until you uncover how to utilize this insight against those who seek to manipulate you. Chapter 4. The battle between emotion and logic. Have you ever found yourself consciously recognizing you shouldn't do something but doing it anyway? You assured yourself you'd remain composed during an argument, but when they rolled their eyes, it was game over. You promised you wouldn't buy something superfluous, but that irresistible limited-time offer was simply too good to ignore. This happens because, contrary to our beliefs, emotion governs our actions far more than logic does. If you fail to comprehend how emotions can commandeer your thinking, you're not making rational choices. Rather, you're acting on emotional impulses that feel reasonable. Here's how it plays out. Your brain processes emotions more swiftly than logic does. That's why fear triggers instinctive reactions before you've even identified the source of your fright, and why anger can prompt you to lash out before you've thoughtfully considered your response. Meanwhile, your logical mind races to catch up, scrambling to justify the decisions your emotions have already made. To make matters worse, emotions aren't always grounded in reality. They can be affected by past experiences, subconscious biases, and even trivial factors, such as your recent sleep quality. This means if you don't take a moment to interrogate your feelings, you may be making life-altering choices purely driven by a fleeting mood. So, how can you prevent your emotions from dictating your life? You need to create distance between feeling and action. When you experience a strong emotional reaction, pause and ask yourself, is this emotion grounded in reality, or is it merely my response? The more you question yourself, the less control your emotions will exert over your behavior. Mastering this aspect grants you the strength to think before acting, while everyone else reacts impulsively. Chapter 5. The echo chamber influencing you. Have you observed how your social media feeds consistently align with your viewpoints? How every shared post, article, and comment appears to validate what you already think. This isn't an accident. It's an echo chamber. If you're not cautious, it can ensnare you in a narrative where you only perceive one facet of the truth. Here's how it unfolds. Your brain craves affirmation. Being right feels rewarding. This is why people gravitate toward news sources that resonate with their beliefs. This also explains how algorithms curate content that matches your opinions, making debates online less about genuine discussion and more about waiting for others to yield the floor. However, the peril lies in never confronting opposing perspectives. Your reasoning becomes feeble instead of robust. You confuse repetition with truth, growing more self-assured while becoming less informed, which makes you a prime target for manipulation. The remedy? Break free from your echo chamber. Explore sources that challenge your views, follow individuals with differing opinions, and compel yourself to consider alternative perspectives, not to shift your stance but to refine and strengthen it. The most formidable thinkers are those who test their convictions rather than cling to them. Chapter 6. The power of inquisition. Imagine you're in a detective film, interrogating a suspect. You wouldn't simply ask, "Did you commit the crime?" since an immediate denial is expected. You probe deeper, posing questions that reveal what they're concealing. This is the essence of critical thinking. It's about crafting the right questions rather than merely seeking the correct answers. Most people ask ineffective questions. For instance, is this true? Is weak because if you already wish to endorse something, you'll discover a means to do so. A more robust inquiry is, what evidence could disprove my position? This compels your brain to entertain the possibility that you might be incorrect, consequently enhancing your reasoning. Here's another perspective. Instead of asking, "Do I appreciate this idea?" inquire, "Who benefits from my believing this?" If a concept is aggressively promoted by media outlets, corporations, or influencers, chances are someone stands to gain from it. Once you grasp this, you cease being an easy target for deception. But wait, here's the game changer. To elevate your thinking swiftly, begin asking, "How do I know this?" Many couldn't provide a rational answer. They simply recite what they've heard, what feels right, or what aligns with their beliefs. By questioning your motivations for belief, you compel yourself to think more deeply, and that depth of thought distinguishes those who are informed from those who merely profess belief. Chapter 7. The deceitful nature of your mind. Have you ever been unequivocally convinced of something, only to find out later you were entirely wrong? Perhaps you thought you had securely locked the door, only to discover it ajar upon returning. Maybe you distinctly remember a conversation, yet the other participant insists it never occurred. Or perhaps you held a belief for years, only to uncover it was utterly unfounded. This is primarily because your brain doesn't function as a flawless recording device. It distorts reality, fills in voids, and alters memories to align with your current beliefs, all without informing you. One of the most prevalent methods through which your mind deceives you is confirmation bias. This is your inclination to notice and retain information that affirms what you already believe while disregarding or dismissing conflicting evidence. Have you recognized that when you're convinced of something's truth, you suddenly observe evidence reinforcing that belief everywhere? This isn't reality aligning. It's your brain sifting information to fit your established worldview. Add to this the illusion of truth effect. When you hear a falsehood repeatedly, your brain may begin treating it as truth, even if you initially recognized it as false. This explains the efficacy of propaganda. the dissemination of misinformation, and why many cling to beliefs more influenced by repetition than factual accuracy. So, how can you counteract this? You must diligently question everything, particularly that which you're most certain of. When you catch yourself proclaiming, "I just know this to be true," ask yourself, do I actually know it, or do I simply feel like I do? Explore your sources. Scrutinize opposing perspectives. The instant you cease blindly trusting your thoughts is the moment you commence genuine thinking. Chapter 8. The fallacy of intelligence in decision-making. Are you under the impression that intelligence shields you from poor choices? Think again. Some of history's gravest decisions, business blunders, political debacles, financial meltdowns, were made by individuals of remarkable intellect. Why? Because intelligence, in isolation, doesn't assure sound reasoning. It may even impair it. Here's the explanation. Intelligent individuals are often more adept at defending their viewpoints, but that doesn't equate to correctness. It merely implies they can rationalize misguided decisions with convincing arguments. If they desire something to be true, they will discover justifications, even if the reasoning is tenuous. Then comes overconfidence bias. The sharper someone's intellect, the more likely they are to rely on their judgment, sometimes incorrectly. They presume their prior success guarantees their correctness because they've been right before, but that's how they become blindsided. The most proficient thinkers aren't those who assume they're infallible. They are the ones who consistently challenge their assumptions. And don't overlook emotional reasoning. Regardless of how astute you are, if a notion seems appealing, your brain desires to accept it. This is why even the brightest minds may fall victim to scams, poor investments, or toxic relationships. Their reasoning fails to analyze facts. It merely finds ways to validate desires. The answer? Maintain humility. Regardless of your intelligence, always assume there's something you've overlooked. Blindsided, the most brilliant minds aren't always those who believe they are correct. Rather, they are the individuals who consistently test their concepts. And we mustn't overlook emotional reasoning. Regardless of your intelligence, if an idea feels right, your mind seeks to validate it. This is why even the most exceptional thinkers can become victims of scams, poor investments, or unhealthy relationships. Their minds aren't evaluating the facts. They are merely discovering ways to support what they wish to be accurate. The answer? Maintain humility. Regardless of your intellect, assume you may be overlooking something. Assume the role of devil's advocate when it comes to your personal beliefs, and actively seek out criticism instead of just basking in praise. Because the instant you believe you are too intelligent to make poor decisions is precisely when those decisions begin to emerge. The illusion of free thinking suggests you like to believe you are an independent thinker, right? That your views are distinctly yours and molded by reason and proof. But what if I informed you that a significant portion of what you believe, your views, your values, even your self-perception, has been imparted to you? The lens through which you perceive the world is not genuinely rooted in independent thought, but rather in programming you have absorbed throughout your life. It sounds outrageous, doesn't it? Yet, let's unpack this reality. From the very moment you entered this world, influences have surrounded you, molding your thoughts. Your parents, your culture, your education, and the media all contribute. If you were raised in another country, you might possess completely divergent perspectives on politics, religion, or achievement. If you grew up in a different home, you could likely have varying fears, values, and habits. So, how much of your thought process genuinely belongs to you? Here's another unsettling notion. Society prefers that you don't think critically. Governments, corporations, and media outlets all gain from a populace that goes along with the flow rather than challenging the status quo. Why? Because independent thinkers are more difficult to manage. They do not merely accept authority, they question it. They do not just conform to trends. They scrutinize the reasons those trends appear. They don't simply absorb information. They analyze it. Therefore, if you wish to think independently, you must begin by questioning the origins of your beliefs. Ask yourself, do I hold this belief because I've thoroughly researched it, or simply because it's what I've always heard? Start dismantling your own mental programming, because once you achieve that, you cease being a puppet, and that's when authentic independent thought begins. The trap of emotional thinking presents a scenario many can relate to. Have you ever made a decision impulsively only to regret it afterward? Perhaps you sent a message that was ill-advised, or you quit something prematurely, or you allowed emotions to push you into a poor decision that logic would never endorse. This happens because emotions exert a powerful influence. They can override rational thought. When you are angry, frightened, or thrilled, your mind takes shortcuts. It ceases analyzing and begins reacting. In those moments, you may believe you are making a logical choice, but the truth is, you are merely being driven by emotions. Consider how fear can compel individuals to shy away from opportunities, how enthusiasm can blind them to significant warning signs, or how anger can persuade them they are correct even when entirely mistaken. Emotions are indifferent to logic. They are focused solely on feeling good in the present. However, critical thinking is not about what feels right. It's about what is genuinely accurate. How can you prevent emotions from commandeering your thought process? It's simple. Pause before making significant decisions. Step back, allow feelings to subside, and ask yourself, if I were entirely calm, would I still choose this path? If the answer is no, you recognize the emotional impulse is driving the decision, not rational thought. Here's a pivotal point. Emotions are not the adversary. They are merely unreliable narrators. The goal is not to suppress them, but to acknowledge when they are tugging at the reins and reclaim control before they lead you astray. Regarding the cost of being a passive thinker, many individuals presume they are engaged in thought, but in actuality, they merely react. They consume information without scrutinizing it, accept viewpoints without analysis, and allow the environment to dictate their thoughts almost subconsciously. This is precisely what society desires. Passive thinkers are easier to manipulate. They jump on trends without questioning them, adhere to rules without considering whether they align with their beliefs, and go through life operating on autopilot, unaware of the underlying influences shaping their perspectives. This passivity stifles personal growth and authentic understanding, leading to an existence dictated by external forces rather than self-guided principles. To break free from this pattern, one must actively engage with their thoughts and beliefs, fostering a mindset of inquiry and critical analysis. This shift allows individuals to reclaim their intellectual independence and navigate the complexities of life with greater clarity and intention. Only by disrupting this cycle can one cultivate true understanding, empowering them to forge their pathways and make decisions grounded in reasoned thought rather than instinctual reactions. Therefore, embrace the challenge of examining your beliefs and thoughts critically, step beyond the ready-made narratives provided by the world, and embark on a journey of authentic self-discovery to think more freely and genuinely. You possess the power to change and adapt your mind, leading to informed decisions and a better understanding of your reality. Many people simply accept whatever they hear because thinking independently feels overwhelming, but here's where it gets risky. Passive thinking isn't just about lacking information, it's about being manipulated daily. Each moment, you're inundated with messages aimed at shaping your perceptions. Advertisers want you to feel that acquiring their product is essential. Politicians want you to accept their truth, and social media algorithms encourage you to conform to the thoughts of those around you. If you're not consistently questioning the content you consume, you're being programmed without awareness. The consequence? You relinquish control over your own mind. You cease to think independently and allow others to dictate your beliefs, opinions, and choices. But the moment you become aware, the moment you start questioning everything, you reclaim that power. Critical thinkers don't merely accept information. They scrutinize it, analyze it, and form their own conclusions. This ability makes them a threat to anyone benefiting from a passive, compliant society. Your brain tends to seek shortcuts to conserve energy, which, while helpful for survival, hinders critical thinking. Take stereotypes, for example. They exist because your mind prefers to categorize swiftly. Analyzing each individual, situation, or concept from the ground up is too slow, so it generalizes, makes assumptions, and rushes to conclusions. That's where the issues emerge. Then there are cognitive shortcuts that enable quick decision-making. Sound helpful, right? Except these shortcuts frequently lead to poor choices, such as assuming someone is correct merely due to their confidence, trusting information solely because it comes from an authority figure, or making decisions based on gut feelings rather than solid evidence. The issue arises because your brain clings to these shortcuts. It creates an illusion of thought when, in reality, you're just following ingrained habits. So how can you break free? Start by questioning your immediate cues. Whenever you find yourself making a quick judgment, pause and ask, am I genuinely thinking, or am I simply assuming? Challenge your initial impressions, urging your mind to explore the longer, more challenging route, the one that genuinely leads to the truth. Real thinking is slow, chaotic, and uncomfortable, but it's the only way to perceive reality clearly. Once you begin this practice, you stop vacantly operating like a passenger in someone else's control and start engaging in authentic thinking for yourself. Your brain often distorts reality. It filters out inconvenient information and rewrites history to make you feel better. It tells you you're right, even when you're completely mistaken. It convinces you that your desires must be true. Ever noticed how, post-argument, your brain exclusively recalls information that enhances your image, or how, upon making an error, it quickly crafts excuses instead of acknowledging the fault? This isn't coincidental. It's your mind's way of shielding you. It despises being wrong or uncomfortable, so instead of confronting reality, it modifies it. This phenomenon is termed confirmation bias, the inclination to seek out and accept information confirming your existing beliefs while dismissing contradictory evidence. It's the reason many become trapped in echo chambers, why conspiracy theories proliferate, and why even the most intelligent individuals may embrace the most nonsensical ideas. The frightening truth is that higher intelligence doesn't inherently render you more rational. It just enhances your proficiency in defending your biases. So, how do you escape this cognitive snare? Simple. Embrace discomfort. Seek out evidence that contradicts your beliefs. Challenge them as if you were attempting to disprove them, for the truth lies not in what comforts you, but in what disquiets you. Think you're immune to manipulation? Think again. Each day, your mind is susceptible to external influences, advertisers, politicians, influencers, and the media. If you're not actively fighting back, you're being controlled without your awareness. Consider social media. You might think you're leisurely scrolling, but every post is meticulously curated to sway you. The algorithm discerns what incites anger, what incites clicks, and how to keep you engaged for hours. The scariest aspect? It's not personal. It's business. Then you have the news outlets. They don't report based on significance. They report on what will elicit the strongest reactions. Fear, outrage, division. Why? Because emotional individuals are easier to manage. If you're frightened, you desperately quest for solutions. If you're furious, you seek someone to accuse, and in both situations, you're more likely to act impulsively. So, how can you resist this? Begin by identifying instances when you're stirred emotionally. Anytime you experience an intense emotional response, rage, fear, excitement, pause. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Who stands to gain from my reaction? Once you're aware of manipulation, it diminishes its power over you. In a world that benefits from keeping you in the dark, the most dangerous action you can take is to see clearly. Many people fail to think critically because they struggle to pose the right questions. They accept information as it is. They presume what they hear is accurate and never take the time to delve deeper. However, every great thinker, innovator, and genius throughout history shared one commonality. They questioned everything. Why is this true? Who gains from this belief? What evidence contradicts this? How might I be mistaken? These aren't arbitrary queries. They are instruments that force reality to unveil itself. They cut through deception and illusions. Explore history. Every significant breakthrough, revolution, and shift in human progress initiated from a single question. What if we are mistaken? Sadly, most individuals fear posing these questions. They resist challenging authority, don't want to seem foolish, and shy away from the possibility of being wrong. So they remain silent, accepting and obeying. Not you. Not anymore. To master critical thinking, you must make inquiry a habit. Whenever you hear something, whether it be through news, a friend, or even your own thoughts, don't simply accept it. Interrogate it. The truth doesn't emerge from landing blindly on beliefs. It comes from daring to ask what others shy away from. You've now uncovered a secret that many may never grasp. Your mind serves as both your most potent tool and your greatest adversary. Each day, you navigate a landscape riddled with manipulation, bias, and misinformation. But now you recognize the pitfalls. You can see through the illusions, placing you well ahead of the overwhelming majority. Critical thinking is not merely a skill. It's a tool for survival that distinctly separates those who follow from those who lead, and those who get manipulated from those who emerge victorious in life's game. Now, you find yourself among the few capable of cutting through the noise. However, the pressing question remains: what will you do with this newfound power? Will you begin questioning everything? Will you confront your own beliefs? Will you refuse to be swayed? Knowledge alone isn't sufficient. Action brings about transformation. If you're eager to elevate your critical thinking skills, there remains much to discover. Stay tuned for our next exploration on dismantling mental biases and making quicker, smarter decisions. In a world teeming with distractions and deception, only the sharpest minds can truly flourish.